channel. I'm super excited that you are here today. I'm going to be talking about some DIY Valentine's Day crafts. And these are just two that I personally decided to do this year. I like to decorate the house for holidays, but it can get expensive to go out and buy everything. And even with Valentine's Day, I feel like there aren't as many decorations in the stores as I maybe want there to be. Maybe that's just me, but I had the idea for just a couple different things so I could use up some of what I had around the house and had to go out and purchase minimally. And then also, full disclosure, I sent an SOS to my mom, who is also a big crafter, and she sent me some supplies. So I want to show you today how I made two different types of garland for the house. The first one I made was just using a few different things. I used cardstock. I had hosted a Lego themed shower last year, so I had a bunch of primary color cardstock hanging around, so I had this red, and I just usually have white cardstock on hand, so I had both of these. Now I do have a Cricut, or access to a Cricut, so I was able to cut them out that way, but all I did was cut out all the little heart-shaped, and I just used the red and white. I cut out, oh, I don't know how many, 6 times 10, so 60 of each. The red cardstock was a little thicker, and this isn't 60, obviously, this is just what I have left over, but so I cut the hearts out using the Cricut, but I know that they do make a different stamp, maybe not as big as this, like a hole punch that would be heart-shaped, or, I mean, they don't have to be perfect. If you just, you know, had kiddos around the house and wanted to give them a job for the day, you could cut out hearts using scissors. And then also there may be, you know, some cutout shapes or things that you can pick up at the craft store, but this was pretty easy. I was lazy with mine and just, I didn't want to take too much time. I just used a sewing machine actually. So I did them this way, and you'll see in my video, because I did try to film some of it, I did sew kind of one on top of another, and so you can see the seam lines. I also had the thought, and before I decided to sew, I thought about getting some red and white twine, because you could also sandwich them together and maybe glue in between and thread your twine that way, so you could have your garland going this way. So that's just another option, but I used the sewing machine method, which I will show you, and made these beautiful garlands. Now, it did take me a little while to figure out my process, and I'll share that tip with you as we're going through, to not have too much string in between them. So trial and error, people. Kind of what's hanging on the board back here is most of my rejects, but I definitely have some usable garland that I'm excited to put up for that. And then the second craft that I decided to make was a ribbon garland. Now, I've been seeing these on Pinterest for years. I see them used in holiday decorations. I've seen them used in nursery decor, a lot of weddings. I mean, there's a variety of uses, so not just limited to Valentine's Day. Here, I use Valentine's Day colors, but the concept is pretty fluid, right? So what you start with is just some twine. And again, I don't know where she got this from, but this was in the SOS package from my mother. So we had some trusty twine, and then I had some ribbon, my mom had some ribbon lying around, and then I did go pick up some supplemental ribbon, just spools of whatever you liked. I used ribbon, and then I also used quite a bit of netting. I had this red, again, this is a mom, thanks mom, gift. So this is just kind of a, I think they use them on Christmas trees. The ribbon is kind of like a mesh netting, but it's hard to see. You'll see more in the video because I used quite a bit of this. It was tougher to work with. It has some glitter to it, but it turned out really cute. And then I didn't use any because I didn't have a ton on hand, and basically I didn't want to be bothered cutting it. But if you are a quilter and you have strips, all I used is 8-inch strips of ribbon, and here's an 8-inch strip of fabric. So you could cut this any width, probably between, I would say stay below 2 inches, an inch to an inch and a half thick, but you could use the fabric too. So we had a few scraps, but again, I didn't end up using this in mine, but a lot of tutorials and videos I saw online, they absolutely use the fabric strips, so feel free to go at it. And when we were done, we ended up with, ooh, some pretty garlands. So I'm excited to just walk you through the process really quick, give you a couple quick tips on things that you can do. Again, just some DIY Valentine Day decor. So let's get to it. So like I mentioned, I did have access to a Cricut and the Cricut software to do this project. And if you have never worked with a Cricut, it's pretty simple. There's an online design suite and you have access to a lot of different text and images. You just select what you want and then kind of put it into the program, arrange it, and then tell the machine to cut it. And it cuts it so precisely. It's really kind of cool to watch. So I just went and found a basic heart that I could copy a few times. And I was working with just 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, so I could cut out 6 at a time. And then just went to work on the cardstock, alternating between white and red to get all the hearts cut out. And then when everything is cut out of the machine, you need to do a process they call weeding. And I had a little spatula tool to help me out, but basically the mats are pretty sticky, so you just get the paper up and then you need to be very careful and get under them without ruining the edges and just lift everything up, like I said, just like a spatula. And I realized this is really an easy project because I did have the Cricut and it would take significantly more time, but it is doable to cut out all the hearts by hand, but it just took me maybe 10 minutes doing everything with the Cricut, which was awesome. Okay, so I had all of my hearts cut out. There were 60 of each. I actually screwed up on a couple of red ones, but it looks like there's more red just because that cardstock is thicker than the white cardstock that I use. But now it was time to get sewing, and I was a little bit nervous about this. In hindsight, I can't believe I didn't watch any tutorials. I just kind of went with, oh, I can sew paper, I'll figure it out. And I did figure it out, but it took a little doing. So I realized that I had to really be ready with the next color heart so I could sew them quickly together. And then it was also helping me a little bit to pull on the back thread. The first few passes that I did, I had kind of a gap between the two, which is fine if that's what I was going for, but I really wanted them so they were close together. So it took a few tries to get it so I could line up one heart right after the other to not have that gap, and I think it turned out pretty well. And even with the learning curve here, I have to say that this did not take a lot of time. I feel like I set aside the whole evening, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be sewing forever. And then I was done in, I would say it was less than 30 minutes. And that was with experimenting and trying to find a rhythm and getting this all done. And I even had hearts left over. I didn't know how many to cut out at first, but I think per garland, I probably used about 20 to 25, and I had 60. So I had a lot of room to work, but this is where it started turning out the way I wanted, where it was just boom, 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 heart, 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 and I just really love the look. Okay, the heart garland is done. This is everything that worked and didn't work in a big pile, and I just love the way it turned out. But it was time to turn my attention to the ribbon garland that I wanted to make. So I had some fabric, but a lot of ribbon. The little, the spools were in a pack from my mom for the most part, and then the little plastic bag ribbons with the different patterns, I'll link below. I actually got a set, I think it was like $14.99 on Amazon for all of these together. And there were some red, and then in the packet, I don't have them on camera right now, but I had some really, really bright pink. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I just decided to start cutting and thought it would come to me whether to mix red and pink or just do red and white. But the first step was to get all my ribbon cut into 8-inch strips. Now, I laid it out. This is my really old ruler with like marker all over it and everything. And I started really nicely, like lay out a strip, cut it at 8 inches, lay out a strip, cut it at 8 inches. And it didn't take me a while to get really, really tired of this, you guys. Like, it went on forever, and it is embarrassing how many I went through before I realized that I could find something that was 8 inches to wrap the ribbon around and cut on both ends. But I was like 75% of the way done of measuring all this out and cutting it by hand until I realized I could cut more than one strip at a time. So again, something I probably could have gained by watching a tutorial or really thought about it before I started.
But whatever, it all worked out. And I got everything cut down. The netting that I needed to work with to cut down was a little trickier to work with. I did get it cut and I did use quite a bit, but it kept curling up. And then, like I said, I came to this point where I realized I could wrap it around. I just took a little piece of cardboard and cut it to size, and then I could cut multiple ribbons at once, which was super awesome, but it was like the last, I swear, like 25% of the ribbon that I did this to. So in total, the ribbon cutting process probably took me 2 hours, but had I been smart and done the multiple cut, and I took the back of a legal pad for the cardboard, and it was 8.5 inches, which was a little bit bigger than I needed, but I thought close enough, it is fine. I just cut it down, and then I could cut so many at once. If I'd have done that from the start, I bet it would have taken me about 30 minutes. So learn from my mistake and cut multiples at once. So once I had that done, I just kind of laid out all my ribbon. I wanted to see what I had. I was really pleased with the amount of colors and textures that came together. I had purchased some, like I said, my mom sent a ton, and I had also bought that from Amazon. So it worked out really well. I had a lot of sheer, a lot of patterned. I had some wire edge ribbon, and that netting that I mentioned. Well, one of my favorites was this pearl ribbon that I got. I actually picked this one up at Joann's. You can get it online, and it was super pretty. It just added a lot of texture. I think my favorite ended up being the polka dots, just because they look so cute and whimsical in there. And then I had this sparkle tool, which I think I bought to wrap a baby gift like a bajillion years ago, and I was just really digging into the reserves on this, you guys, and came up with a lot of stuff. My mom had that netting, that red netting that was so great and added so much texture, and I just couldn't decide what to do, if I wanted to do red and white and pink and just do one all together. But ultimately I decided to switch them up, and Ruby sat the whole time just kind of eyeing everything, wanting to get in on the action. She did kind of curl up in some of the netting for a little while, which was pretty cute. But so I knew I was going to make 2 garlands, so kind of started separating out the red from the pink and was excited to get started with the tying. So like I mentioned, I have this cording, and I tied loops on the ends because I wanted to make sure that I had just a clean finish, and my plan was to get the extra loop tied in with the ribbons. But I know a lot of people have used twine, and really whatever you have on hand or whatever you want that end loop to look like is what you should go with. So I just started tying. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. At first I thought I would divide everything up in a very organized fashion and just, go in the same order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that kind of thing. And then I realized that because every ribbon was different, the spool length, that I had way more of some than others, and I just decided to wing it. I'm not typically a wing it person, but I really enjoyed just kind of taking a step back every now and again and seeing, okay, yeah, I like this color together. I don't like this. It needs some white. It needs some texture, and just making sure I was keeping it with the variety. And again, these pearls were tough to tie, but I just love the look of them. They turned out so cute. And this is, when I first did the first pass, I wasn't sure, do I want to leave in some pink? And then, nope, I decided ultimately I was just going to keep it red and white. So I didn't do double knots or anything. I just did one tie. So if I didn't like the look of something, I could go back and change it. And the other thing that I think was great was that I was using kind of a shinier cord. And it was one single knot. So when things didn't look right next to each other, in hindsight, or I needed to put more pattern in, I could easily slide them up and down the rope and fit some more things in. So that red twine that I just put on too, I should talk about that. That was like incredibly hard to tie, but I think it's a great look. It had a little bit of sparkle. The texture was just so very different, and I had to be careful though what I was putting it next to, because if it was ever next to the pearls, they would get so caught together. It was just ridiculous. So it was just a process of getting everything tied on, and I think we watched like a movie and a half while I did both garlands. So all told, it probably took me I'd say 2.5 hours, maybe closer to 3, to get 2 full garlands done, which I didn't think was bad. Honestly, I thought it might take me a lot longer. It was just a really good evening project. And then as I was getting to the end, I was really trying to be aware. I wanted to, at the exact right time, catch that extra tail in there again, so I just had a clean loop on the end. As I was doing this too, I was thinking one thing I would really like to try with this concept would be making a wreath. And I'm not sure exactly how I would go about that. If you have any ideas or if you've done it before, leave me a comment below. A wreath is like high on my list of next Valentine's Day decoration I want to buy. Really, I'd like to have a wreath for every season to hang on the front door. I'm working my way up there. I've got fall, I've got Christmas, I've got kind of spring, summer, Easter, all encompassing. So I have 3, but I'm working towards, like I said, specific on the holidays. I need Valentine's Day. Like a hole in the head, right? I don't know where I'd store it, but I feel like I need it. So that might be another project for another day. Okay, so here we are. This is the finished red and white garland. And you know, I didn't measure it. I kind of measured it with the rope to fit the space, but I'm guessing it was probably about 4 feet long for this one. And gosh, I wish I would. Maybe I'll have to go back and measure it at some point, but you'll see in my Valentine's decorating video, which is coming next, where I put it. I ended up winding it around some candles that I have. So I didn't even put it in the space that I had measured it for, but I really like the length of it too. I think it was a good length and it worked well for decorating. So here's how it turned out with all the different patterns and textures. I really, again, I think variety is key when you're doing these. And I was like 3 minutes done with the red and white one before I decided that I needed to make a pink and white one that night. So we had just been hanging out and watching movies. I think we were watching The Founder. Have you seen that? It's got Michael Keaton as Ray Kroc, the kind of the quote-unquote founder of McDonald's. It's one of Nate's all-time favorite movies, so we ended up watching it quite a bit, and it was just nice because I've seen it a ton and could have it on in the background. And really, the tying, you know, I couldn't look up very much, but it was just kind of mindless work. And I find myself, I'm always listening to TV or movies instead of music when I'm doing crafts and things like this. So the pink one went really quickly. I did that one a little bit shorter. I had kind of another idea of where I wanted to wind this around some stuff. And funny thing, like these went in the opposite places when I did my decorating of where I thought they would go, but it still worked out really well. I think this one was a little bit shorter, probably like 3.5 feet, but it was by far my favorite just because it had such a fun, sweet Valentine's Day feel. It was just really, it looked a lot cheerier. I thought the pinks and the brighter colors. So I loved the way that this one turned out. I was really happy I took time to do a second one.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you learned some new tips and tricks. If you do your own DIY Valentine's Day decoration, I would love to see them. Please tag me at the Seger Stories on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up below. Leave me a comment. Let me know how things are going for you with your Valentine's Day decorating and crafting. And I've got more content coming for Valentine's Day, including a clean and decorate with me that you're not gonna wanna miss. So if you haven't already, make sure and hit that subscribe button below. And until next time.